Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today I'm going to give some tips on healthy traveling. I get a lot of questions about how to ensure that you're eating healthy while traveling, and if I have any tips on how to eat, especially if you're on a special diet, things like that. So, and just how to make sure that you have a healthy, happy vacation and not get sick, especially if you're traveling to underdeveloped countries, whether it's in Asia or in Africa, South America, places like that, where there might be a lot of issues that foreigners pick up, certain stomach bugs, things like that, and how to prevent that. So the first thing that I really like to emphasize is actually being healthy before you go. Number one, a lot of times people overlook this, and they're about to go on vacation and they're finishing things up with work and they're super stressed, so they're not sleeping well, and they're run down. So by the time that they arrive at their holiday destination, their immune system is weak, and next thing you know, they're sick. And that's like the last thing you want, especially if you're going on a short vacation and you want to really enjoy it, be vibrant, feel strong and good. So do make sure before you leave for a few weeks that you're getting good sleep, you're eating well, exercising, things like that. Another suggestion I have too is to be taking regular probiotics, at least for a few weeks before you leave. Whether it's taking probiotic supplements or having kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt, things like that. Anything that is a fermented food that will help to build up the good, healthy bacteria in your stomach and help to prevent any kind of issue. It really does help to support the immune system. So I find taking a good round of probiotics before you leave, and also while you're traveling, bring some probiotics with you, because that too can just ensure, sort of safeguard against any kind of issue. So also too, before you go, because it's good to be prepared, I suggest, if you're especially on like a special diet, whether you're vegetarian, you're vegan, raw vegan, or you've got dietary issues, or you have any kind of food allergy or sensitivity, do research on the internet before you go to see if there are restaurants that cater to your needs, because nowadays you'd be quite amazed to see that there's a lot of vegan restaurants out there, raw vegan restaurants, all sorts of stuff, and healthy restaurants as well. And there's a fantastic website that I highly recommend. It's called happycow.net, and I'll put the link on today's blog post at radiantcentral.com. But it's a great database of healthy restaurants all over the world. So it's perfect. So wherever you're going, go check out this website, because you might find some hidden gems out there. So it's good to know, and do the research. Also, research too the water standards wherever you're going, because especially if you're going to underdeveloped country, a lot of times water is not good. And so if that's the case, then even if you're staying at a Western style hotel, the water probably won't be filtered, the running water. So it's important, little things like brushing your teeth, you might want to use bottled water, things like that, especially, just to prevent any kind of issue. As for eating, I have a lot of people ask me, like, is it really safe to eat fruits or raw vegetables like salads, things like that, in underdeveloped countries? And I'd say with the fruit in general, you won't run into so many issues, especially if you eat fruit that has a peel. It's most cases you won't run into any kind of food poisoning, things like that. It's when there's no peel that it can become questionable, especially if the running water is not good, because then whatever they're washing the produce with, it might get contaminated. So better to go with anything that has a peel, and you're good to go. With that, I would say with vegetables, on the other hand, it really depends from country to country, and it really depends on their own traditional cuisine. Like, for example, like Thailand, water's not so good, but their traditional food, a lot of it includes salads. So there, like, I've never run into an issue having a salad. I've had salads off the street or in restaurants all over the place, and never a problem, because everyone's eating that. But in other countries where traditionally they don't have many raw vegetables, and they don't eat salads, and they cook everything, especially if there's high incidences of contamination and parasites, things like that, then be a little bit weary. Be a little bit cautious as to where you're going to eat a salad. I find in general, if you go to sort of like a Western style vegetarian or vegan restaurant, they usually use proper water filtration and you can have a salad. I've never had a problem at these kind of restaurants eating a salad, whereas going to more of a traditional restaurant and them having maybe like a little sort of Western menu on it with a salad, but the rest of the food is their traditional food, I would go with the traditional food over having a salad. So and also it's just a matter of like looking at the place and just kind of scoping it out a bit to know, do you think it's safe or not? So that's something to consider. And also too, I've been asked a lot about MSG, because especially in Asia, it's sort of like the MSG capital of the world. And people ask, well, what do you do if everything has MSG? Because they put MSG in everything. And the first thing I want to just mention too is that it's not only an Asian issue with the MSG. This is something in the West as well, especially in North America, that most food, you go to a restaurant or you buy fast food or you buy processed food, all has MSG in it, whether they're actually adding it into the food or they're using an ingredient that has MSG in it. So there's always this focus on Asia, but it might be in your homeland as well. So as for Asia, I find what helps is a lot of the food is actually prepared on site right there, and especially sauces, things like that. So a lot of times you can ask no MSG and they won't put it in, which is good. A lot of times too, there's restaurants that do not have anything with MSG and they usually advertise it. There's usually like a big sign that says no MSG. And I find nowadays more and more, as people are getting educated about it, it's being used, it's still being used a lot, but there's options. And in all, if you can prepare your own food, then you know what's in it. But a lot of times that's not the case. And if you can also too, to learn local language a little bit, so if you can actually say it in their language, then they'll understand it and hopefully they can prepare something for you. Also too, I want to mention is oils, because that's especially in underdeveloped countries, it's not so much talked about, but I would avoid, in general, like in day-to-day life, I would say try your best to avoid deep-fried food, but especially in a lot of these countries where the oil that they use, especially with deep frying, it's used over and over again, and it's used until it's black. Nothing is being wasted. So that is something to consider, is that a lot of these oils, especially with deep-fried food or where they have a big sort of big pot of oil, it's old and it's probably rancid and it's just probably really, really bad. So avoid those kind of foods as much as possible, and that too can safeguard any kind of issues, especially if you want to be healthy and happy and have a great time. And the main thing too is just, in all, it's doing the research and just knowing too that if you go to sort of like a Western style restaurant that appears to be clean, then the food is generally safe. And the main thing is that if you're going more sort of the traditional route, then eat the traditional food. So it's just being smart. It's just being smart and keeping your eyes open and just more aware as to how they're preparing things and how clean everything looks. All right, so those are my tips, and I'm wishing you guys a fabulous day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.